Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle, and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
I'm Mark Dolan, and it's time for Headliners, a first look at tomorrow's papers tonight in the company of the double comedic threat of Sajila Kershi and Leo Kearse. See you after the headlines with Ray.
Thanks, Mark. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. The Foreign Secretary has stressed the government's commitment to the Good Friday Agreement during a meeting with a top US Democrat. Liz Truss met Richard Neal, who heads up the influential Ways and Means Committee, to discuss UK-US trade. It follows a warning from US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi that Congress won't support a free trade deal with the UK if it discards the post-Brexit agreement. The Home Secretary will urge MPs to support the government's new public order bill, warning that policy cannot be dictated by so-called mob rule. Speaking on Monday in the House of Commons, Priti Patel will try to reintroduce measures which have previously been blocked by the House of Lords. They include a new offence for obstructing major transport networks, which would carry a maximum penalty of 6 months in prison. Number 10 says the Prime Minister did not request a meeting with Sue Gray and hasn't tried to influence the outcome of her investigation into Partygate in any way. It comes after Labour called on Boris Johnson to urgently explain what they discussed, with Deputy Leader Angela Rayner saying people deserve to know the truth. It's understood they met at least once while the report was being drafted. Sir Ian Duncan-Smith is urging the government to boost benefits in line with inflation. The former Conservative leader says this would protect the public from mounting living costs. Sir Ian says the use of rebates and discretionary funds are a step in the wrong direction for tackling poverty. He argues it would be better to uplift universal credit. He told GB News the government has the budget needed to make the difference.
We need to lower taxes and actually assist those on benefits, and it won't lead to extra debt. The government has the headroom. 2 years running, they've outperformed their own forecasts by 91 and 90 billion respectively, nearly 200 billion. Better than they were expected to be 2 years ago. So this is money that can be used for this purpose.
Plans are being drawn up to keep passenger and freight trains running after unions warned of potentially the biggest rail strike in modern history. 40,000 staff from Network Rail and 15 train companies are voting on action over pay, with the result expected by Tuesday. If the strike goes ahead, it could create serious challenges in keeping goods moving and supermarket shelves stocked. The Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall are set to guest star in a special episode of EastEnders to mark the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. In the programme, Charles and Camilla will surprise the residents of Albert Square at a street party held to celebrate the monarch's 70 years on the throne. The royal couple filmed the scenes in March with members of the cast describing them as amazing sports. On TV, online and on DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now let's get back to those headliners.
Hello, I'm Mark Dolan and welcome to Headliners, your nightly romp through tomorrow's papers. Now, a wise person once said that people don't remember what you say or do, they remember how you make them feel. Well, with that being said, tonight we have a woman that makes me feel warm and fuzzy. It's Sajeela Kershi.
Aww.
And a man that makes me feel we need to close the border to Scotland, Leo Kearse.
You tried that before, but Hadrian's Wall is like 2 feet tall.
It wasn't
just
great.
Climb over it.
You could leap over it, especially with those long legs of yours. Before we start, let's have a look at tomorrow's front pages. And we'll kick off with the Mail on Sunday. Rwanda asylum plan is working. Channel migrants are already asking to be sent home, not to African centres. Interesting exclusive there in tomorrow's Mail on Sunday. Let's move on now, shall we, Claire, to the Telegraph. Sunday Telegraph, Tories in threat to torpedo unions. Conservative ministers planning to break stranglehold on transport and education. Civil servants erasing women from new laws. And windfall tax on energy giants will not tackle the cost of living crisis, ministers warn Sunak. Observer next, PM to sacrifice top official over Partygate to save himself. And Ukrainian man drives 3,700 kilometres to reunite with parents and fiancé 10 kilometres away. Sunday Mirror next. Wagatha Christie exclusive. Colleen, it's in the bag. Rooney tells pal, I will be vindicated. She celebrated with a cup of tea. And the final showdown. Of course, Liverpool face Man City for the championship, the Premier League title. Sunday Times Rich List next. NHS covered up ambulance deaths scandal. Trust managers altered files to hide mistakes by staff from coroners and grieving families. And floating voter, brilliant photograph of an Australian man in his Speedos voting in the Australian elections. Also another interesting story on the front page of the Sunday Times. Sunak and Johnson clash over how to spend windfall tax. Sunday Express now, free tuition pledge for all pupils. Education Secretary vows he will provide one-to-one help for everyone in need. And Sacré Bleu, how France fell in love with Her Majesty. Brilliant photograph of the Queen, looking gorgeous and resplendent in yellow. And last but not least, the Daily Star Sunday. There's a good boy. Special Forces. Ukrainian army rescue abandoned Russian attack dog and retrain him to work for them. Lovely story, and I think a happy ending to what is a mixed bag of newspaper front pages. Well, let's kick off with the Sunday Express and a pledge on tuition, Leo.
Yes, that's right. So every school pupil in the UK is going to become eligible for free personal tuition. I mean, they say free. In reality, it's paid for by our taxes, so it's not exactly free. But yeah, the Education Secretary, Nadeem Zahawi, has said that a tutoring programme introduced to help children catch up following COVID lockdowns would now become a permanent feature of the school system, with help being offered to children in danger of falling behind. But this is eligible to all children, as I understand it, which is a bit unfair on the children. If you think like school finishes when the bell goes, it's like, no, now you've got to go and have some private tutoring as well. But yeah, I mean, private tutoring was needed because pupils needed to catch up. They missed so much classwork during lockdown. And now it's going to be extended, possibly to help, improve Britain's chances in the economy of the 21st century, or whatever century we're in.
Well, yeah, feels like we're in the 18th century, doesn't it, after 2 years of COVID measures. But I guess, Sajeela, this is a step in the right direction. One-on-one tuition is actually a good part of the educational mix anyway.
It is, and I think it's a really good thing because they talk much you said about levelling up, and I think this does level up because it means that all children have the same sort of starting point. That's really important, and of course it's not just the lockdown, which did do a lot of damage to, like, a friend's little boy. I think he spoke later because he wasn't around other children. So yeah, this is a good thing.
Indeed. Well, that's a positive note with which to kick off. Let's go to the Sunday Telegraph next. And someone is not getting their health and safety certificate renewed anytime soon.
Yeah, so this happened this morning, 11 a.m. this morning, during Trooping the Colour. Basic chaos as spectators were rushed to hospital after stand collapses. So they were having a rehearsal ahead of the 2nd of June Queen's Jubilee. And 5 people were treated at the scene after the incident at the Horses Guards Parade. It happened when they got up to sing the national anthem, and 3 people have been taken to hospital when the section sort of just basically collapsed. A woman is understood to be injured. She fell through and she was like screaming, "Help me, help me!" And it's believed a partial structure failure is to blame for this. Obviously, they want to make sure that this doesn't happen with the Queen in attendance. So massive health and safety issue. Luckily, everyone's OK so far.
Or the Queen on it. That'd be worse.
Yeah, that'd be worse. Yeah.
It'd be one hell of a viral video, though, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah. But, I mean, these structures, these are temporary structures that get put up and taken down. So, they're flimsier than a solid balcony, which the Queen is going to be on for the Jubilee. So that's made out of masonry and stone. It's been there for a long time.
And what's going to happen? Harry and Meghan will be roughing it on a crane or something, will they?
Oh, don't. That's already sort of putting things like, conspiracy theories, like somebody like, oh, there's a crane going, it just happens to casually fall, blah, blah, blah.
I better not call Meghan Markle the dreaded Meghan Markle, otherwise I'll get cancelled.
Yeah, by me, because I've dreamt about her and we're mates in my dreams.
Well,
so, yeah.
Listen, everyone's your bestie. Because you're the Kershey.
You're having a go at my bestie.
You've got a big fan base out there, and it's going to grow tonight because we've got lots of other stories to get through, including this one, the Sunday Express. And more bad news for the Queen, this time coming from our Antipodean cousins down under, Leo.
That's right. So the results are in for the Australian election, and they've had, I think, 10 years of Scott Morrison leading... ScoMo leading the Liberals, who are actually right-wing. They're the equivalent of our Conservatives, but they call them Liberals just to... because everything's upside down in Australia.
And it's weird. And in the UK, I think Liberals are sort of lefties, and in America, Liberals are socialists.
Yeah. So wherever you go, you've got to check where you are on the map to know where you're politically oriented. But after winning 3 elections, ScoMo is out and he's been replaced with the Labour, the left-wing leader, Anthony Albanese. So we're not sure yet. They're still counting the votes. We're not sure if he's going to have a majority or if it's going to be a hung parliament, because there are a lot of independents this time, apparently. But yeah, basically, one of the things that Anthony Albanese, the Labour leader, wants is for Australia to drop the Queen as head of state, which seems, it's not really the best time to do it. She's having her Jubilee celebrations, and also she's quite old. Just wait 10 years is all I'm saying. And this comes in the tail of other countries such as Belize and Jamaica announcing that they're thinking about becoming republics and dropping the Queen as head of state. And Barbados, of course, already has in quite a sort of controversial decision.
I wonder whether the Australians might regret ditching the monarchy.
Yeah.
Because the alternative to the Queen as head of state and all that history and that partnership between us and Australia is some clapped-out ex-politician as president. And I'd take the Queen all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. And when they get invaded by China, which is obviously going to happen, at least 10 years before it happens to us.
They'll take Taiwan, then they'll go to
they'll take
Australia.
Taiwan, New Zealand. I mean, I think they've already bought the New Zealand government. But then they'll take Australia, and because they need the resources. And
we won't have any skin in the game.
We won't be, how Boris is sending all these tanks and missiles and things to Ukraine. He won't be doing that for Australia.
I'll be honest, I don't think it's actually the Queen that they're getting rid of. It's actually Charles. I still think their people are preempting. So I think Queen is still loved. I don't think that is against the Queen.
They don't like the look of Charlie.
King
Charles.
They think, we better just kind of like sever ties before he gets in. Yeah.
They don't want to be King Charles's spaniel. That's why they pay the big bucks. The Sun now, and what's the latest on monkeypox, Sajila? I see you're out in hives tonight.
Yes, so...
What's an antibiotic?
Britain to have a significant rise of monkeypox cases in weeks as disease spreads across Europe. Apparently, the Pride Festival in Gran Canaria, which was attended by 80k. Now, that is some...
Yeah, I never miss it.
Some festival.
Only lockdown kept me away last year.
I see you still sporting the tan from the festival. So it's blamed for the monkeypox spread, and apparently there's 100 in Europe, and it's rising fast. I don't know if that's rising fast. 100 doesn't seem quite many.
It rose from 0. So
it goes to 100.
That's a 100% increase.
That's a 100% increase, right? So, I mean, obviously, we know post-pandemic, this seems like I think we're so over that this sort of feels like, oh, OK, so how serious is this? And it's like you get... the symptoms are a high temperature, a headache, muscle aches, backache, swollen glands, shivering and exhaustion, which pretty much could be the flu.
You get big monkeypoxes.
Oh, you get... Oh, yeah, the rash is... Oh, sorry, the rash comes... That's really weird.
The rash looks horrible.
Yeah, but the rash is at the end. The rash usually appears 1 to 5 days after the symptoms. The rash does look really minging. It does look horrible.
It's like piles all over your arms. But apparently it's spread through...
Speak with some knowledge there, Leo.
Well,
you care to talk to the doctor about this?
No.
It does look horrible.
That could be one of the ways it's spread. It's spread through sexual contact.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is why it's spread at this festival. But for it to jump from monkeys to humans...
Yeah, can we stop doing things with
animals?
Yeah,
we just got to stop whatever we're doing with monkeys.
Yeah, stop it.
Because
you know who you are out there.
Came from apes as well.
Stop it.
So this is.
Can I say I want to apologise? Full disclosure, but in the GB News canteen, I actually had bat and monkey for lunch. I'm really, really sorry.
Is that what the remains were in the bin?
It's the cost
you didn't
of living
recycle it properly.
Feels irresponsible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there was no recycling going on, Leo. Honestly. Mark's terrible. But yeah, I agree. Whatever you're doing, just stop it. Because why are we getting all these? Stop interfering with the animals.
Yeah. Good. A very, very fair point indeed. A good motto for life, I would argue. Moving on, the Mail on Sunday next, and now the government want to stop present-day 13-year-olds from smoking in 2030. Leo, explain why. Like forward planning with a ban on smoking.
Yeah, they want young people to not smoke, so they're going to raise the age at which smoking is legal. So I think at the moment it's 18. Is it 18? Mm-hmm. It used to be 16. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, it was 16. And when my dad was a kid, he was given a lighter on his 14th birthday to encourage him to smoke. So it was seen as a good thing. So it shows how things have changed. But yeah, they want to bring the legal smoking age up to 21 under plans from Sajid Javid to cut the number of smokers to just 5% of Britons by 2030. And he's also going to have new taxes on tobacco companies and on their profits. And obviously tobacco is already heavily taxed, so this has got the danger of actually encouraging the black market in tobacco smuggling and also counterfeit cigarettes, which are a thing and are much worse for you, because they're basically made from the sweepings of the cigarette factory floor mixed in with bits of carpet and tractor tyre.
Student days reminds me of my
yeah, smoking soap bar. But yeah, they're also the NHS is going to encourage people to switch to e-cigarettes and vaping. And some people are saying that this is the nanny state, but I mean, really, smoking is quite bad. And when you're young, you feel invincible. When I was a teenager, I smoked because I thought it was cool, and it wasn't. I was still a spotty little nerd. It's just I smelt of cigarettes.
Yeah. Well, I think, I think really, I can understand the reason behind it, totally agree, it's wrong, blah, 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 it's not good for you, don't do it out there. But as soon as you say you're going to put it up to 21, what's the first thing young people are going to want to do?
I know.
It makes it more attractive. Anything prohibited and not allowed, you want to do more of it.
Well, that's why I had bat for lunch earlier.
That is why you had bat for earlier, and that is why people are getting covered with the pox, yes. It's forbidden.
But you raise a really good point, because in some ways we're both parents.
Yeah.
And you would take smoking over drug use by your child as the lesser of two evils, wouldn't you?
Oh, that's like one of those questions.
I mean,
yeah, of course.
Cocaine versus Marlboro Lights.
Marijuana, yeah.
What about magic mushrooms?
Magic mushrooms.
Actually,
no, I don't want drugs.
I think I would also prefer my sons smoked than even smoke marijuana, actually, because the difference is, I mean, smoking's terrible for your health, but marijuana's mind-altering, and that concerns
we have
me.
got a story later on which kind of addresses the other uses of marijuana, but I think smoking is so awful, and it just really, you know, I mean, but it is one. It's always been sold as being cool. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And the moment you say you're going to have to be 21 now to buy cigarettes, everyone's going to be trying to get them, as you say, from the black market. You know, rolling up like dangerous stuff.
I don't think it'll make it that cool, to be honest. I mean, because 21 is at the age where it's starting to get middle-aged, so they're going to associate it with old people.
Oh my God, what the hell are we then? If that's middle age, we're like basically coffin chasers.
we probably are. Let's be honest. Well, look, I don't often do this, but I years and years ago foolishly smoked for a brief period, and I read a book called The Easy Way to Stop Smoking by Alan Carr. I don't own shares in that company, but I read the book and never looked at a cigarette again. 6 million copies sold. Alan Carr, Easy Way. That's my recommendation. But if you're having issues with smoking or any addiction, do talk to your GP.
I got off it with heroin.
Oh, that's actually very
really
good.
Really weaned me off.
Yeah, that takes you down. I can see you're nicely cooking with gas tonight. Yeah. Well, look, on that rather exciting and narcotic note, let's move on to the cost of living crisis in the Observer, Sajila.
Oh, this is you know, just going to keep going, isn't this story? So, yeah, it's ridiculous. Shock as some UK grocery prices rise by more than 20%. So, which have done a little finding here. They say that cereal, mushrooms and cheese among the items to have risen the most. And like, oh my God. So in Sainsbury's in Whitechapel, the cost of rising food prices has forced a particular young woman called Petra Emmanuel to change her shopping habits. She's basically saying, coupled with the cost of fuel prices, utilities bills, she's buying, you know, she says, I don't buy branded food, but even the simplest items have gone up in price. And the biggest price rises include 500 gram of Kellogg's Crunchy Nut Cornflakes, up by 21.4% at Tesco's.
A vital staple.
I know. Well, it's very Moorish. And Asda's own label.
You talked about heroin. Crunchy Nut Cornflakes is heroin in a bowl.
It is. It's crack, that is. And it's very crunchy.
It's the brown sugar.
With brown sugar. Closed cut mushrooms, same by the same increase. And then extra mature cheddar cheese, the Cathedral one, rose by 21.1%. I'm sorry, but they came for the mushrooms. I said nothing. They came for the crunchy nut cheese. I said nothing but do not take my Cathedral cheese. I love it.
That's exactly right. You and your Edam will not be celebrated. Let's move on now to the Sunday Times. And a row at a school has spilled out onto the Twitter sphere. Leo, what's going on?
Yeah, so this is, I mean, you might remember last week there was a row because a teenage girl was basically bullied out of her school. She disagreed with, or she asked questions. She didn't, you know, explicitly deny what was being taught her, but they had, you know, a trans rights activist came to teach them about trans ideology. She questioned it and posited that perhaps biological sex could be real, men and women could exist, and there are differences between them. And she was forced out of her school. So she's now being backed by J.K. Rowling, the Education Secretary Nadeem Zahawi, who's appearing in the papers a lot at the moment, and various other people. And she says she's just grateful the important issue is now being discussed. And yeah, maybe we should listen to women on this issue instead of just listening to trans women like me.
Yeah, Sajila, I know you've had strong views on this in the past.
I have. And this really saddens me. I mean, one of the things that actually I ended up in a rabbit hole looking at a tweet about something you tweeted about Owen Jones, who effectively there was trending that she was bullying. You know, Jones a bully, and I've always liked him in the past.
Guardian journalist.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he had basically said he'd like to speak to the girls who. So he basically saying, this one girl, I don't believe what she said, but let's find out what the other girl said and why she was kicked out. That made no sense to me. It doesn't matter what she did or didn't do.
Yeah.
A group of people have bullied one person, and now you're saying, let's not forget what she's saying, forget what she asked, because obviously everything she did or said was wrong. And I think this is really dangerous when you are stopping a conversation from happening. Questions young people have, they need to be answered.
And they're using, you know, bullies, school bullies are using this ideology as a mechanism to bully. I mean, they interview one of the teachers at length here, in this article, and he says, what happened in the sixth form centre is an example of where narcissistic rage masquerades as righteous anger in the form of gleeful outrage. Here, otherwise perfectly nice and agreeable individuals collude and congregate to show that they are on the moral high ground. Also, any waverers will be getting the clearest message of what will happen to them if they don't conform. Of course, when you think you've got the moral high ground, when you're pious and righteous, it gives you so much more strength. Because you think you're right, you think what you're doing, like in any witch hunt from Salem, from wherever, you believe that what you're doing is right, and you're punishing the person righteously.
But this is like school kids, this is school kids. So now it's become a very different playground. Politics. I mean, girls have always been a bit mean or mean children when they're being bullying. But to now, how brave is she to actually speak out?
And in Scotland, it's happening in primary schools with kids changing their gender or even their name and their pronouns at the age of 5 without parental consent.
It's really disturbing.
How do you see this playing out? Because this is not transphobia. I think the three of us agree that transphobia is a terrible thing. If you choose to identify as a different gender, good luck to you. But this is denying the basic facts of biology and also attacking women's rights.
It is, and actually they're using transphobia to weaponise, to actually say that there's transphobia going, which isn't happening. Do you know what I mean? I want to see more cases where you're saying this is happening, but it's actually a schoolgirl asking a question that is not transphobia. Anyone asking, it's not just transphobia, we've got other stories as well that we're going to cover, I know, but it's any issue. If you cannot have a debate, and the whole point I think we just talked a little while ago about this show, is that we have different opinions, but there is still a camaraderie between us. There is still like a unity, and we can still have that. And I don't understand society where, people say, oh, I'm going to switch off because I don't like what they were saying because it doesn't agree with me. Don't be so pathetic. You're going to switch off because somebody disagrees with you. How do you make your way through the day and, going to a supermarket, having your daily stuff when everybody thinks against you? It's important to listen to other people's opinions. And this poor girl was shut down for simply having an opinion.
Briefly, how do you see this attack on women's rights playing out, the extreme trans ideology? Where does this go, Sajila?
I don't know. I think there's been a backlash, and I think the tide is turning. Like, even within groups of friends who've been quite right on, they're saying that they feel they've got a different opinion on this than they had earlier. Because even I was like, oh, I mustn't offend anybody, I mustn't say anything, I mustn't upset anyone. But no, that ends up actually me losing my rights, me losing my kind of self-worth or my sense of who I am and what I want to say.
So when more ordinary people feel the consequences of this, because at the moment it's quite abstract, isn't it, Leo? But when we saw Leah Thomas with, this is a man that identifies as a woman, a biological male, smashing women in the pool. At that point, the public said, wait a minute, this is a bit odd. Yeah, not just that. I mean, just recently we saw feminists around the statue of Emmeline Pankhurst being
that was
harassed and assaulted by males in black masks. And obviously that's a terrible look for any movement, but for the trans rights movement that's trying to say, look, we can just identify as whatever, and you've got to accept it. I mean, to then, be acting in that fashion and putting a noose around Emmeline Pankhurst's neck, that's terrible optics.
How does
for any movement.
How does that support women in any way? And
how does it support transgender people as well?
Exactly. It's such a bad publicity.
And many transgender people say, not in my name.
Exactly. And also, I think I have more of a problem when it comes to male transitioning to women, because I think they're mistaken in thinking that they're going to get all these rights. It's not easy being a woman. It's not going to sort all your life out. It's not going to fix everything. Leah, very, very briefly, how do you see this whole trans ideology playing out? Does it go away?
I think it's going to rumble on. I mean, wokeism is now systemic. It's throughout all our institutions, so everywhere. HR departments, the guidance that's handed down to police, it's in our legislation with hate crime bills, with the online safety bill. So this isn't...
Corporations as well.
Corporations.
University.
Yeah.
The media.
University. Everywhere. Everywhere is infiltrated and
not your house,
systemically woke.
Not in your house.
I mean, we're kind of woke. I mean, I support trans rights and stuff, but I think there are elements that have taken it too far, and there's obviously a backlash against it, and it's tarnishing the whole of wokeness.
But surely that's any ideology. Don't take it too far either way.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The centre ground, whatever happened to that, well, we'll occupy it in the next part of the show. We'll be asking the question all Guardian-reading parents have asked themselves at some point. Is my 3-month-old baby a racist? See you shortly.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle, and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Mark Dolan, and my lovely guests, Sajila Kershi and Leo Kurse. I'm, of course, using the term lovely very loosely on this occasion. We go to the Sunday Times, and what is going on in Blackpool, Sajila?
What indeed? So gender referrals for children 3 times higher, apparently, in Blackpool. There's been a huge national increase in the number of children identified as experiencing gender dysphoria. And the survey found that on an average, clinical commissioning group refers 32 children per 100,000 for treatment, more than a 15-fold rise since 2010. So that's quite substantial. But in some parts of the country, obviously it's huge, and that statistic, they've been Blackpool, it's had a referral rate of 115 children per 100,000. That's 3.6 times the national average. And Brighton and Hove had rates 2.4 times higher than would be expected. But actually, I would expect that in Brighton and Hove. Yeah.
You would.
Luton and
parents are like basically dragging their kids down to the clinic.
And Luton and Hounslow, West London, have got some of the lowest rates of referral. So this is really interesting. Now, I saw earlier Bill Maher's on Twitter, his little, I don't know if you've seen it, there's the clip going round.
Yeah. Top US comedian, isn't he? Talk show host.
Yeah, and he was also talking about this kind of, I think he was saying Ohio doesn't have as many, and then like California does.
Yeah.
I couldn't quite hear everything he was saying, and that there's some sort of a trendiness to anything other than being straight. And sadly, I think that's true.
Yeah.
And that's not just straight. And when I said it a few years ago, like it's like, okay, how can I say this and not going to sound offensive? But it's like everybody wants to be black.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like everybody wants to be, almost have, like I'm oppressed. I have been persecuted, and you haven't. So it's almost like a covetable thing now to have like this history of trauma of some sort. So everyone has to almost feel, and you sometimes hear it if you talk about race or racism, it's the race card. You mentioned white, you must be the racist. And that really irks me because it actually takes away from the real issues that are going on ahead. And we do have to ask ourselves, why are so many children, at such a young age, feeling that they aren't in the right body? And I mean, a lot of it...
It's a social contagion. I mean, this is, young teenage girls, it goes through teenagers and young people. You see it with eating disorders, with self-harming, with other things, with fashion, with, Tamagotchis or whatever it is, with pop bands. things become a fashion, people want to do it. Like you're saying, there's been this huge rise, but it's sort of restricted to certain, it's higher in certain areas where you've got more progressive Guardian reading type people. I love it how they say they don't know why Luton and Hounslow in West London have got some of the lowest rates of referral to gender clinics. That's where you've got communities with more traditional values, more immigrant communities. Who aren't going to be subscribing to this whole, progressive, let's paint everything rainbow-coloured and transition our children. I think the next Billy Elliot film is just going to be a child desperately trying to avoid a transition while his Guardian reading parents try and drag him down to the clinic. That's
so it's a bit like
a contagion.
It's a bit like the from Absolutely Fabulous, Dina, the mother.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I kind of did it to my son. I sort of kept saying, darling, if you are gay, you need to, mummy's here for you, and I will understand. And it was like, well, you could start asking me that question, because I always want... So maybe there is a little bit of that going on as well, where you're sort of like, oh, it's ever so trendy, like, number 66. They've got a trans child in their house.
And what it does, if you've got a trans or a pansexual child, that demonstrates that you're a progressive parent.
A progressive parent, absolutely.
If you've got 2 straight kids, you're a monster.
Yeah,
you probably
and maybe they want
Tory.
to adopt a black child as well, because then we can tick all the boxes, and oh my God, we'll be such the envy of the neighbourhood.
I like your point about victimhood, because I mean, look, there are people, and there always have been in history, that felt born in the wrong body, but now it's a case of, well, life's difficult, okay? Life is full of pain and challenges, and the answer from medics, institutions, schools, and some parents is, oh, you're in the wrong body, that's your problem. And in many cases, that's just not their issue.
Also, they might be gay. They might, I mean, I think they talk about autism and, other things which are, I don't know if you autistic traits or types of neurodiversity.
Well, in most cases, puberty resolves these issues and people revert to the natal gender. So obviously, in some cases, transitioning is absolutely the right approach. People really are the wrong gender in the wrong body.
But that's rare.
And need to transition. But yeah, it's relatively rare, and puberty usually resolves this. So to transition children, to put them on puberty blockers and hormones, and then put them on the process for surgical transitioning is really jumping the gun, when you should really wait and see what...
When I grew up with 2 older sisters, and I played with their dolls, and they put dresses and lipstick on me. God knows what fate I would face in 2022. But we can all agree I'd make a rubbish woman.
Oh, I think you'd make I've seen you. You've got great legs. You'd make a great woman.
I haven't got the cheekbones, and I'm completely flat-chested. Now, let's move on to the Sunday Telegraph, highlighting what I've always thought. Accountants are bigoted racists, Leo.
That's absolutely correct. And we can name the company that Mark just called, because I'm sure they've got quite a robust legal team. So KPMG, one of the big 4. Is it the big 4, the big 7? Anyway, they're one of the big accountancy consultancy companies. They're going to make unconscious bias training mandatory and linked to bonuses from next month. This is just over a year after the previous boss, who had to stand down because of these comments. He said he told workers to stop playing the victim card, and his remarks also saw him call unconscious bias complete poo-poo. I can't say the actual word.
This guy sounds like a hero.
Yeah, he sounds like he said exactly what you just said, Sajila.
Yeah. Don't sack him, Leo. Give the guy a promotion.
But now, I mean, companies, the corporate world is so woke now, because HR guidance that comes down from the central HR body, I mean, it's so woke now, it's insane. Like, it talks about how facial expressions can be microaggressions and all this kind of stuff. So HR is just expanding, like insulating foam in a cavity wall to all they should do is process payroll and deal with sick days and stuff like that. Instead, they're coming up with all this nonsensical training, including unconscious bias training. This is training that basically says, look, you're definitely racist, you're definitely an evil person. Here's a morning off and some free sandwiches, and sit through this PowerPoint presentation telling you how bad you are.
So, Gila, do you disagree? What do you think about unconscious bias training?
I do think unconscious bias. I mean, I've had some training on unconscious bias. I didn't think much of it, if I'm honest, but I think it's probably perhaps the people who took it. I think that it's right to have had some address to the appalling remarks that he did make, Bill Michael. You know, when he said that stop playing the victim card, again, it is what I said earlier on. And because...
It's exactly what you said.
That's what I said earlier on, yeah. But the thing is...
That's what you want from the boss, tough love, isn't it?
Tough love. No, but it's not. It's like you don't know what the situation was there. KPMG, they are doing what is kind of like, I think I agree with you, it's like across the board, like this is what's happening everywhere. In terms of unconscious bias, I don't know about that, but you talked about microaggressions. Microaggressions are a real thing. I know this was discussed earlier, and I was watching the show shouting at the telly, going, no, microaggressions is a real thing, it happens, and it actually causes, I think, a lot more trauma, a lot more pain than I knew where I was back in the 80s, early 80s, when racism was actually open, you know, people were openly racist. When it goes into microaggression, it is nasty.
Right.
It is, and because you can't,
and
it's like
subtle.
the equivalent of a comedian on stage and somebody's in the audience and like everyone's laughing and they just cross their arms and look at you and you go. Do you know what that is the equivalent? I didn't
You
say
don't
anything.
get that, Kirsty.
Huh?
So
No,
you don't
I
get
didn't.
that, but I know what you mean.
You can't, because you can't put it out. You can't say, because everybody's thinking, what are you talking about? You know, because they've just, that is a microaggression.
Do you think we need to bring back conscious bias? We need conscious bias.
We need people to be overtly racist.
Open racist.
Overtly racist, because we know exactly where we stand with them. But I'm
No,
just
but
trying
there
to
is-
give you
I
from
hear
a
what you're
personal
saying.
perspective,
Yeah,
from a lived experience, which I know is another buzzword, right? But it does make a difference.
Yeah.
It is very painful and horrible, and you can't. And I would probably go through a whole day of having microaggressions. I'm sure you guys do in your own way, you know. Maybe I don't know what people might do it to you for. Just because they don't like you. I don't know what microaggressions you haven't experienced. It's horrible.
Some people assume that, being Scottish, especially when I worked in Canada, they had this weird idea of Scotland as, we lived in moss huts and didn't have electricity, which actually isn't far off the mark.
I've been to your house.
Yeah.
Well, it's going that way, isn't it? Sajila, let's go to The Guardian now and back to racism. Racist 3-month-year-old.
Okay.
Forgive me, it's the, is it the Sunday Telegraph? Sunday Telegraph.
OK, so this is going from one extreme to the other. So children as young as 3 months old may be racially biased, council claims, because the council knows these things. The council are aware of these things.
And it's their job, isn't it, rather than collecting, emptying bins?
It's their job to collect bins, recycle, and basically stop these hideous 3-month-old babies from being racist. There's a poster being shared by the Islington Council that says by 5, white children are strongly biased in favour of whiteness. OK, by 5, I kind of concur that, you may know colour, you may know that someone's different, and in fact, you have that wonderful quality where you just point it out and say, oh, Mummy, why is that person black or white? You might say that.
I love it when you're in the queue at the airport and the kid says, Mummy, why is that boy brown or something like that?
Why is that woman wearing that funny mask?
Oh my God, my child's going to say something that could be construed as racist. I must deal with this.
They're just saying it's beautiful and it's innocent and it's lovely, right? But then they're going further and saying at 3 months, they have, at 3 months, babies look more at faces that match the race of their caregivers. No, babies are actually very selfish. They'll go to the person that will feed them, that will give them food and nourishment and comfort. So it's nothing to do with colour. So, I mean, it's just, this has gone too far the other way. Yeah. And I think maybe just children actually, I think we could learn from children, like small kids, because they don't see colour, they'll only repeat what they're told. Yeah.
So, Gila, I mean, in all candour, answer me this question. Are we now just preoccupied with racism, that everything is seen through the lens of racism? Have we got to just get over it and tackle inequality and lift up those at the bottom of the economic ladder, some of whom will be from a black or minority ethnic background, and others will be very, very poor white people? Do we need to move on from race at some point?
OK, so this article actually does very much harm to real racism out there, because the fact that you just said to me, do we need to get over it, right? It just shows how dangerous things like this are. Because what it makes everybody think is like, oh, so it's cured, it's fine, nobody's racist. Yes, it is. It is welcoming. There are wonderful things. But when you post, and you be careful when you post online, when you're posting things like, that person, why should they be on this show? I'm sick of seeing blah, blah, blah. There is inferred racism there. It does exist, it's there. But I take your point that
I mean, it's more a question, not a statement.
marginalised.
It's not a statement. Do we focus on it too much or not? Or
Do
not
we focus
enough?
on it
Also,
too much?
don't you think it's a microaggression that Mark is directing these questions about race at you?
No,
and not me,
Mark, I
because
know
I'm
what
white?
Mark very well, and I know what he's doing. He's trying to get some balance in
Well, I want to know, because I can't decide whether now racism is the most evil thing, but whether society and institutions are essentially, preoccupied with it, and that it's counterproductive.
I think, yes.
Potentially.
This 3 months baby thing, stuff like that, wrong. The KPGM story where they're getting unconscious bias because of something that happened, right. That is the way that all organisations are going to have to deal with things. Do we want to keep talking about, statues, all these other things? It's a bit more complicated, and I feel that a lot more people are being offended on other people's behalf.
Yeah.
But if you want to know about racism, I suggest you talk to the people who actually are affected by it, and maybe listen to what they've got to say rather than what councillors think is what racism is.
Leo, what do you think?
I think now white people are more affected by it. If you're called racist by someone, that's going to have a terrible impact in your life. Look at Lawrence Fox, whole career ruined because somebody decided he was racist. It's used as a slur. It was used against me, got me cancelled from lots of clubs.
But it's not affected your career. You're doing ever so well.
No, it has.
Leo.
No,
if only for GB News.
The thing is, the cream's always going to rise to the top. And when I say cream, that isn't a racist term. That is just, it's a saying.
And for not 1 minute did I think cream was racist at all.
But I've got to qualify that because that's white people have to live under this fear of saying or being perceived as racist. And I think the fear of being seen as racist does more damage than look at the grooming gangs. The fear of looking racist stopped anybody dealing with the grooming gangs for decades.
And it's interesting whenever we talk about race, because you always bring up that argument that the grooming gangs, and I think actually that was an incompetence on the part of the police, and now they're using the racism thing as because they failed those girls.
In the inquiry, they specifically said that the fear of looking racist stopped the authorities from dealing with the issue.
But we've gone a long way away. So when you're saying about the fear of white people feeling that, we can't talk about racism in case we come across as racist, that's only going to be an issue if you are slightly holding racist views.
No, it's not. The fear of looking...
Why can't you speak... I feel I can speak freely. Why can't you not... the only issue, on the trans issue, that has kind of silenced all of us because none of us wanted to say the wrong thing. But
so you're agreeing that, but you're saying that's exactly what I'm saying. So you're afraid of saying the wrong thing and being perceived as transphobic. It's the same thing with racism.
But you do then have to look at yourself and think, well, actually, I don't agree with the majority there, but there's still ways to have a conversation. We're still having a conversation here about trans issues without having to resort to being transphobic. Do you see what I mean? It's
we can have a discussion about racism without being racist.
Exactly.
And to allow horrific crimes like grooming gangs to continue out of fear of looking racist, if you deal with it, shows the power.
Leo, you bring the grooming. What other examples do you have? Because you always bring the grooming gangs into
it's a huge hundreds of thousands of victims.
Every time we talk about racism,
we can talk about
very briefly, Sajila, does casting everything as racist? Cartoons are racist. Shakespeare is racist. The Prime Minister's racist, this table is racist. What it does is it lets real racists off the hook.
There's lots of real racists getting off the hooks, but that's all kind of exaggeration what you just said. Everything's racist.
Well,
you're right.
We're revisiting artworks, aren't we? We've got the Rolling Stones can't play Brown Sugar anymore in their concerts, which is a song critical about
where is that coming from?
slavery.
Is that coming from people who've actually experienced racism?
Well, it's coming from the so-called anti-racism campaign.
Yeah.
A fascinating conversation which will continue. This show is all about opinions. Coming up in part 3, we will be fretting over the upcoming summer beer shortage. What the hell? The great allotment shortage. And a man that posted himself back from Australia. There's a large parcel to sign for. See you shortly.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners, a first look at tomorrow's papers with myself, Mark Dolan, and two top comedians tonight in Sajila Kershi and Leo Kearse. An exclusive from the Daily Star of all places on a new type of prison, Leo.
Yeah, so Jihadi jails are going to be built in a £6 million bid to stop radicalisation in British prisons. So 3 new separation centres will keep influential radicalisers away from the rest of the prison population, because they've been, basically people have been going into prison and being radicalised in prison, which isn't what you want. It's supposed to rehabilitate, not turn you into a suicide bomber. So I mean, this is some that they actually talk about how they've been too sensitive, like we were talking about before. So they've allowed cultural and religious sensitivities to deter them from taking this approach. So yeah, I mean that's one approach. Another approach would be just to maybe slow down the flow of people from countries where there's these kind of radicals.
Good luck with that one.
Is that racist?
Let's move on to the Sunday Times now, and call me jaded if you will, Leo, but I don't think I'll be taking any investment advice from John Terry.
No, well, yeah, no, I was going to say. So basically, cryptocurrency ads have featured in the past year or two, have featured people like Matt Damon, Larry David from Curb Your Enthusiasm, Gwyneth Paltrow, Reese Witherspoon, John Terry and Paul Pogba. But obviously, cryptocurrencies have dropped. So now everybody's lost their money. Apart from Gwyneth Paltrow and Matt Damon, who obviously banked the money that they were paid for the adverts. I mean, it's probably not as bad for you as the other stuff that Gwyneth Paltrow advises, like vaginal steaming and strange crystals to put inside.
Do you know what I think the best currency
I must rush
at the
straight
moment?
home to try that.
That's what you are. I'm wearing one of her eggs now, and I've never felt better. Sajila, the best way to get paid these days, best currency, probably unleaded petrol and wheat.
Neither of them have any use for.
Sunflower oil.
Sunflower oil. I'm
trying to think. Apparently, we're 6 weeks away from running out of wheat.
I know. But
good news for the celiacs. They finally win, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, Putin has blockaded Ukraine's ports. There's 20 million tons of grain in Ukraine that they can't get out of the country because Putin's blockaded the ports. And he's doing this deliberately to create another migration crisis, like he did in 2014.
Speaking of crisis, Sunday Mirror, we're about to run out of beer.
We're going to run out of beer this week. So after 2 years of lockdown, and you were looking forward to a summer, but we're going to have a dry summer because workers are planning a strike which threatens the stock of some of the country's favourite drinks, like Budweiser, Stella Artois, Beck's, and this is really not. Please don't blame the workers because they've had their cost of living and they've had their wages cut, so they're demanding that they get the same labour wages. So it's not their fault. Blame the managers there. So that's what's happening there.
Let them drink Pimm's. That's what I see.
I'd let them drink champagne.
Now you're talking like a true champagne socialist. The Independent next, and a budding gardener has found himself in a sticky situation, Leo.
Yeah, so this is a cannabis farmer. He was caught with more than 1 kilogram of cannabis, but he's escaped jail. because he was supplying medical cannabis to hundreds of cancer patients. And he's a cancer patient himself. So Andrew Baines, he has been he was spared a 15-year sentence in court. I mean, I'm kind of surprised it made it to court, given the circumstances here. He himself has got a CAN card, which is a medical cannabis card recognised by the police, and it's really helped. He's really helping a lot of patients. I mean, I don't think cannabis is prescribed by the NHS yet, but it probably will be one day. I mean, some of the patients, so 7-year-old Oscar has autism and Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, a severe form of epilepsy that causes him to suffer hundreds of seizures a day, leaves him disabled, but the cannabis oil really helps him control the seizures. So, you know, this guy, I think he's been given a 6-month ASBO or something, you know, a sort of slap in the wrist. But for him to go through the actual trauma of being subjected to the criminal justice system is, you know...
There is a strange puritanism about medically applied cannabis, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
And it's a strange hangover.
Yeah, I mean, it does so much good, and I know people who relied on it so much. But in 2020, the average custodial sentence for rape offences was 10 years, and this guy was given 15 for basically having marijuana.
Quite ridiculous. The Mail on Sunday now with some statistics on how often we speak to our neighbours. I've looked at the figures and I'm surprised it's that high, if I'm honest, Sajila.
OK, says she who hasn't... Yeah, I've got a horrible neighbour I don't talk to. But anyway, I hope they're not watching. And I know that you left the rubbish outside. I know you did that.
In a bin?
No, on the floor.
On the floor?
Have you had words, or is it a Cold War?
Oh, it's Cold War. So basically, 1 in 20 adults in Britain have never spoken to their neighbours. That study finds. A poll found that less than half of those surveyed know their neighbour's name. I do know some of my neighbours' names. As a result, 23% admitted they call their neighbours mate. All right, mate. All right, mate. All right, love. All right. And an average of 3 years it takes them to get to properly know their neighbours. And of course, COVID kind of, sort of made us have more of a sense of community. That's what they're saying. And 48% of adults think that that's great when, for the children. And they also believe it's good for themselves to kind of know your neighbours.
London is kind of weird in that people don't talk to each other. Like when I first moved to London, I had to get used to not speaking to strangers at the bus stop. You start speaking to people at the bus stop, and in Glasgow, people just talk to you. But in London, people are like, "Oh my God, I don't have any money. Please stay away from me." It's very strange.
Well, I used to live next to a very nice couple called Fred and Rose, and they were very sociable, kept themselves to themselves, always took their bins out. Moving on now to the Mail on Sunday, and Leo is actually offered to accompany Sajila as she outlines the story with a real-time interpretive dance of the article. He's been limbering up all evening in preparation. Sajila and Leo, over to you.
So, daily dancing has been linked to lessening anxiety symptoms, management of chronic pain, and even an overall higher quality of life for people suffering from Alzheimer's.
Yes.
So dancing's good for you, basically.
You look like John Travolta in that jacket, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Do you want to do the little John Travolta
Thank
thing?
you. Is that what he does? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
don't you think I get singing in the shower does it for me? I'm not sure about dancing.
Don't dance in the shower. That's very dangerous.
It's amazing. I love it. I love it. Honestly, me and my son, when I'm doing the cooking and stuff in the
I thought you were going to be talking about the shower.
No, not in the shower. That would be dodgy. That would be really dodgy. We had a story like that. It's made me feel ill.
I wouldn't say that. Your son is absolutely hot. I totally wouldn't blame him.
Oh, bless you. But yeah, get off him.
You had confused emotions there.
I was like, oh, I'm proud, but no. But yeah, we used to have little dances in the kitchen while he was doing his homework and stuff, and it's just like a really lovely thing. And because hearing going, I love music, so I love the kind of, I'd have a little dance too. Give me a little one.
How about you? Do you like a boogie?
No, it's terrible. I hate dancing. It makes me feel like a Wally. So I don't want to do it. But this person, Star Vartan, which sounds like a made-up name from a science fiction book, says that we hold every experience we've ever had in our body, so being able to move may release something we've been holding tucked away in a muscle. I'm pretty sure that's not science. That's just made-up dance nonsense.
Yeah, but babies all dance. They don't know. Wherever they learn to dance, they always move, don't they? To
yeah,
music.
It's true. It's true. And there's a book called All Babies Sing as well. Yeah, so how about that? Well, look, let's finish on a man trapped in a box. Sajila.
OK, so Britt posted himself home from Australia, and he's looking for the men who nailed him in the box. And this happened many years ago. He basically was homesick in Australia, asked these two guys, I think they're called Paul and John, and Paul was 100% against it. And he goes, no, mate, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. And John said, no, don't worry, mate. I'll persuade him. I'll
That
get him to do
accent
it.
is a microaggression.
Yeah, it's a microaggression. It's racist as well. So what are you going to do about it? Anyway, but yeah, so he got like all the way. He thought he was going to come back to Wales, but actually the ship stopped in America, and then he went to all immigration and staff, and then they like sent him to the UK where he wanted to go, but didn't sort of do anything. But now he's looking for these two guys, and he said, "Just want to know who they are." And I thought I knew who they were. But basically what's happened is, if they just say yes, that's a crime they're going to be admitting to do, isn't it? So they've got to come forward, are they?
No.
Paul and John, stay away.
Where did he poo?
Boggles.
I want to know where he pooed
Where
when he was in the
No,
in the crate.
he took laxatives for 3 days to clear his system out.
All right, well, there you go. A man trapped in a box, something we would normally consider to be a typical Saturday night out.
Maybe he's a mime artist.
Well, probably. Thanks for your company. I'm back tomorrow. Brilliant job from Sajila and Leo. See you soon.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no sense